Nothing new was said today, and that's exactly why this matters. When a political story goes quiet, most people stop paying attention. That's usually when it gets important. The most important shift in this story didn't come from a statement. It came from silence. If you're waiting for a response and wondering why none is coming, that delay is the story. This isn't about what was said this week. It's about what stopped being said. Over the last few days, a lot of people have been asking why no one is responding, clarifying, or pushing back. But silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It usually means the story has entered a different phase. If you have ever watched a political story and thought, why is no one saying anything? Why has not this been addressed? Did this just disappear? You are not wrong to notice the silence. But silence does not mean nothing is happening. It means the story has entered a different phase. The mistake people make about silence. Most people interpret silence emotionally. They assume it means guilt, avoidance, weakness, or that the story is being ignored. But silence is not an emotional response. It is a strategic condition. And once you learn how to read it, silence stops feeling confusing and starts feeling informative. Silence is not absence. Silence does not mean conversations stopped, decisions are not being made, or attention has moved on. Silence means activity has moved out of public view. This is the point where statements slow down, messaging tightens, risk is assessed, and coordination replaces reaction. The story did not vanish. It went inward. The 3 kinds of silence. There is not just one kind of silence. Legal silence. Legal silence appears when attorneys are involved. Exposure is being evaluated and every word carries risk. In legal silence, statements pause, language disappears, and even routine responses stop. This silence is not about narrative. It is about liability. Institutional silence. Institutional silence happens when organizations align internally. Procedures are reviewed and leadership decides who speaks, if anyone does. This is the kind of silence people often notice in larger political or nonprofit organizations. It feels unnatural because personality disappears and structure takes over. Narrative silence. Narrative silence is the most misunderstood. This happens when responding would amplify the story. Repetition is safer than escalation, and attention is allowed to cool without feeding it. In narrative silence, saying nothing is the message. Why silence attracts more attention? Here is the paradox. Silence often intensifies attention. Because when nothing new is said, people rewatch old clips. Timelines get re-examined and behavior matters more than words. Reaction fades. Observation begins. That is when silence becomes part of the story itself. When silence breaks, and when it does not. Silence usually ends when a legal phase concludes a procedural requirement, forces a response, or attention shifts elsewhere. But some silences do not break. They harden. They turn into documentation, policy, institutional memory, or unresolved history. That does not mean the story failed. It means it moved beyond public argument. How to behave during silence. Silence is not a call to speculate. It is a signal to slow down, stop refreshing, and watch behavior instead of statements. When you understand silence, you know whether to watch. Wait, disengage, or stop reacting altogether. The goal is not to fill the silence. The goal is to recognize it. Because once you understand what silence means, it stops feeling like confusion and starts functioning like information.